views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Let me be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, I'll keep you from drifting away. I'm the one that makes you try when...
This is Patty Hunter of Patty's Page. Thank you for coming on to my show. Today's special guest, well, his name is Wrigley.
Just like the chewing gum.
Just like the chewing gum.
Or the ballpark.
And he is, get this, DJ, newsreader, program director, chief announcer, music director, chief engineer, and anything but sales.
You forgot bottle washer.
Oh.
That really wasn't on the list. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah. So
I would have said that too if you included it, Jimmy.
of course. So I guess we can talk about my start, my love for radio.
To go deep in the past.
Deep in the past.
Hey.
Way down in the low part of the US-of-A, down in Florida. Jacksonville, Florida is where I was born. So growing up, I grew up with two iconic rock radio stations back in Jacksonville. One of them was WPDQ at 600 on the dial, and the other one was WAPE, the mighty 690. It's a 50,000-watt blowtorch. It covered from Virginia Beach down to Daytona Beach. And so they had quite a coverage area. But that's partially because of the geography, because Florida juts way west at that point. So the beaches along the Carolinas actually face to the southeast and not to the east. A lot of people don't realize that that's a little bit different. But because of that, the radio waves for both stations really covered that.
How old were you when you started to become working?
I was 18, and I was at the University of South Carolina. I was a freshman. Yeah. And I had absolutely no idea that there was a radio station on campus. But one of the guys that lived in the hall, the dormitory with me, he was actually the general manager of WUSC-AM. And we got to talking about radio, and he said, we got a station here on campus. And I went over and visited the station, got hooked immediately because I think it was something I always wanted to do. And as soon as I did, I did my first radio show there on November 8th, 1963.
Oh, Lord.
The number one song at the time was Sugar Shack by Jimmy Gilmer and the Fireballs.
And I was 11 years old when you started. You must have been.
Wow.
How old were you when you started? 17, 18?
18. Yeah, 18. I was 18. Yeah.
Well, I'm not perfect, Mm-hmm.
So, well, what's a year between friends, right?
I tell you already, you've been in radio and TV.
Mm-hmm. All about 7 years of my career I had at least 1 foot in broadcasting. And I started off at the university station there. And then the university radio stations back in the early 60s were primarily training grounds for commercial radio. And so in 1965, I applied for and received a part-time position at WCOS. And one of the things about WCOS is they had a thing called reverb on their station. So listen to this. This is what WCOS sounded like with a reverb. So fortunately, I can turn it on and off here now in my studio. But anyhow.
Why always W before the letters?
Because it basically, if you look at the map of the United States and pick the Mississippi River, anything east of the Mississippi is W. Anything west of the Mississippi is K. There are some exceptions. Like KDKA in Pittsburgh and WHO in Des Moines, Iowa. But normally that's what you see. The K stations are out west and the W stations are in the east. So that's how that's how it's divided up.
We grew up in Toronto.
Mm-hmm. Home of the Bells.
Jungle Jim.
Yep. Yep.
What, Wolfgang?
Hmm.
Wolfman Jack.
Yes.
Hard.
You know what his real name was?
What?
Bob Smith. That was his real name.
Hey, such a name. Wolfman? Better.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was a character.
He was
So,
a character. If you haven't read it, you should read his book. It's called Have Mercy. And it's all about his career. He wrote, and of course, he passed away in 1995.
oh,
But he wrote, I thought, a very good book. It kind of captures the spirit of what being a DJ in radio was like during the time. Anything from being involved in a gunfight in Mexico to ratings wars in Los Angeles.
oh, stars.
Yeah,
He's been all over the map like you have.
yeah.
You've been
Well,
basically in the west or east or south or north or
everything I've done, with one or two exceptions, has been in Columbia, South Carolina. I was very fortunate that, unlike most DJs of my time who migrated all over the country,
Mhm.
as a WOLD said in the 90s, or in the 70s, a Harry Chapin song there. But, you know, but I was very fortunate in that I stayed in one market for almost my entire career. And then from WCOS in 1970, I left and went to WIS television, which is kind of
Television, eh?
television. Yeah, and that's kind of an interesting thing because WIS television at the time was the through the 60s, through the 70s and 80s, was the number one affiliate for NBC in terms of ratings in the entire country.
Right.
And so it was a very good place to learn broadcasting on the television side. And a whole bunch of really interesting people came through there. Frank Blair came through there. Craig Melvin, who's on the Today Show now, is actually a WIS television alumni. So, you
The
know, all
people
this.
that you know are still around doing DJs. You were a DJ, weren't you?
Yes,
Yeah.
but at WIS television, I flipped over and went behind the scenes
Yeah.
and started doing engineering.
Hmm.
And I was working on my engineering degree at the University of South Carolina, and started working at WIS television. And from there, I went out to WIS radio as a chief engineer. And by the way, the title engineer in broadcasting is sort of a misnomer because most of us are registered professional engineers, so we really can't call ourselves engineers. But that's what we were called by the FCC and everybody else back in the day.
So
Today,
was
they're
me.
called broadcast technicians. So, woohoo!
I
So,
was a camera person. Then I
uh,
became a producer. Now I've
mhm.
been interviewing for 15 years.
Oh wow, yeah.
800 almost.
So you've had some pretty interesting interviews. I know you've interviewed Pat Boone, of course, Mark Dawson, who's a friend of mine. Well,
Um,
who was your first interview? Do you know?
my first, it was a pro-life thing, a Hope Center.
Hmm.
The second was Patty Duke.
Oh yeah,
2 shows.
yeah, yep.
She's a sweetheart.
Oh yeah.
Really.
My first celebrity interview was what was his name? I'm doing that senior moment there. Johnny Mathis was my first interview,
Ah,
and he was in town for a concert. They were playing at the Coliseum, not the Coliseum, but the Township Auditorium here in town. And a bunch of us from WUSC grabbed an old Ampex 602 tape recorder and a microphone and went down there and did an interview with Johnny. And that was my first. Fortunately for the world, that tape is long disintegrated. He was a true gentleman and took an interest in each one of us and everyone because we did this like 4-on-1 thing with him. And he took a very high interest in everything we did.
I
So
bet he still does, if he still does interviews.
I bet he does. He is no longer performing,
I
but
know.
I think I've heard him do an interview fairly recently. I need to reach out to him and see if he'll do one with us.
Reach out and touch
Yeah.
somebody. When I was interviewing Pat Boone himself, he's 91
Hmm.
this year, and we chatted about his one uh, helping
Hmm.
Tanzania,
Oh yeah.
Korea, digging wells for fresh
Mhm.
water.
Yeah. Interesting thing about Pat, he and I come from the same hometown.
Oh, no.
Jacksonville, Florida. As a matter of
Oh,
fact, he was born. He moved to Nashville at about the age of 3,
mm-hmm.
but we were both born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. This was Johnny Tillotson. Remember him? He passed away not too long ago. He's a Florida boy, and of course, modern artists like the Tedeschi Trucks Band. They have their studio in Jacksonville these days.
Yeah.
But
I also interviewed him. No, Tommy James.
oh yeah, it was John Dell's.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He was here in Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
And
Oh wow.
he came up to see us in our seats and we chatted for a bit.
Oh
We
wow.
became friends with Carol and him.
Uh-huh. Mhm.
So, yeah. So tell me more.
Okay. Well, so a couple of things was happening in the 70s when I was at WIS. And of course, at that point, I was concentrating on the technical side of my career.
Mm,
And I was in the studio engineering department there at WIS Television
right.
from
Oh, tell me.
70 through 76.
Mm,
And one of a couple of things happened during that time. One was the advent of the small cameras, that you put on your shoulders and you can do shoot film.
so
Prior to
called.
that, everything was done in film.
Yes.
But in 75, as these cameras were introduced, and my station was in competition with another station in Greenville, South Carolina, to be the first station to use one of these cameras in a live newscast.
Wow.
And we were going to win hands down because we had ordered everything early and all that kind of stuff. But about 2 weeks before we were about to go live with our first live newscast through the mini cams, we got the bad word that our microwave provider was not going to be able to give us our microwave unit.
Dang.
So what we did is,
Microwave back then?
oh
Wow.
yeah,
What
yeah,
year again?
oh yeah. So what we did is we had this big RCA microwave unit, weighs about 150 pounds, that we were
Oh,
using
kind of.
to transmit the University of South Carolina basketball games back to the
Mm-hmm.
station from the Coliseum. So we grabbed the transmitter off the Coliseum, took it down to the sheriff's office, and set up to do an interview with him.
Mm.
And Tom Fowler was our air talent, and I had a grip working with me by the name of Kathy Malone.
Yeah, yeah.
And we went down to set up at the sheriff's office. Now the sheriff's office at the time was in a very low part of the city, down near the river. And when we got there, we couldn't get a signal out of the sheriff's office back to the station because microwave at that frequency is all line of sight, and we couldn't see the microwave tower on our station downtown. So we broke down and we put the microwave on top of the sheriff's office, and we still couldn't see it. And we were sitting there wondering, now what are we going to do? And Kathy was sitting beside me. She looked up at the jail, which is right next to the sheriff's office, and it's 6 stories tall.
Right.
And so I said to Frank Powell, who was the sheriff, I said, "Hey, sheriff, how about the top of the jail?" He said, "Yeah, you can go up there, but she can't because there's no way to get up there without being in general population, and she's not going to go into general population." So,
Because there are men there and she's
oh
a
yeah,
lady. I didn't hear you.
exactly. Yeah. So
Oh, that must
basically,
be
we got a couple of trustees, and we got up there, and we got the shot done. So that became a historical marker in South Carolina for the
historical
first
or hysterical.
both. So we
So,
wound up doing a lot of stuff that week. The second day we did the Chamber of Commerce from a hotel downtown. The third week we did our weather guy, who's named Joe Penner,
mm,
who, by the way, was a friend of Johnny Tillison's. On Friday we did our sports director from one of the high school football stadium. And then
mm.
Saturday was the big rivalry in the state, the Carolina Clemson game.
Ah,
And so we did not have rights to do any television for the game, but there's no problem with us doing a stand-up from the press box after the game was over. So they said, let's do that. So I grabbed the microwave and the camera and everything and throw it into this rental truck we had. We didn't even have our logo on the truck. It was just
oh
a
shoot.
regular truck. And unfortunately, the news producer went to the press box instead of trying to come to the station. So I had no credentials. So I said, let me see if I can talk my way into the stadium.
And
So I drive up to the stadium, and there's this 80-year-old security guard there. And he said, when I pull up with the truck, he said, "What you got there?" And I said, "Well, I have the mini cam." And he goes, "Oh man, I've been seeing you guys doing this all week long." I said, well, I got a favor to ask of you. My credentials are up in the press box. Will you allow me to use the elevator to take all this camera gear up to the press box and get my credentials? He said, no, man. Well, what I'm going to do is let you drive up the ramp and you can park behind the press box up at the top of the stadium. So, you know,
Miracles to heaven.
well, it goes to show you the power of broadcasting and the broadcasting experience, you know.
How long have you, what's the longest place that you have worked with?
I actually have two that are about the same length of time. One of them was with South Carolina Education Television, which I went to in '79 and left in '92.
Yeah.
And then the other one was WUSC. I was at WUSC from '63 through '65, early '66. Then went back there.
You were
Um,
young.
I was young then. Yeah. Not so much now, but I was young
Okay.
then. Yeah. But I was back there I went back there in '97 as an alumni to do alumni weekend.
Mhm.
And then I got wrapped up with a whole bunch of people who were involved in internet radio. And that's when I started getting interested in internet radio, but I'll come back to that. But anyhow, I started doing part-time shows over there
Mhm.
during semester breaks when the students were away. And they needed alumni to come in and help fill out the schedule for the station.
I didn't have any staff. You had to have
Right.
students.
Yes. Yeah, it's a student-run station, still is today.
Okay.
But in 2010, the faculty advisor had asked me if I would be interested in doing a quote unquote full-time anchor a show every week, year in and year out, because with the student DJs, the schedule was changing all the time and you never knew who was going to be on. So he wanted to get 2 or 3 shows on the air that were always going to be there. So in 2010, I started doing this oldie show. And my approach to it was different from almost anybody else. I decided to do the show in the same style as we did radio in the 50s and 60s,
Dang.
the old top
That
40.
was cool, man. Groovy.
Yeah, so we had jingles, we have all that kind of stuff on the show, and I started there in 2010 doing that full time, and I'm still doing it now in
Far out.
2025. As a matter of fact, it'll be my
64.
62nd anniversary of my first show.
Wait a
Will be
minute,
coming
you
up in
started
November.
in 1963, right?
63.
That is
So
60,
25.
that's 64 years.
No.
That was 2 years ago. That was
Yeah.
63.
So it's 62.
62.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could be wrong.
I are
I
an
used to be a
engineer. I should be
cashier,
Don't ask me to do math without my calculator. Or do you remember slide rules we used to have back in those days?
Oh, Lordy. I was great in physics.
Oh, yeah. So I stayed with South Carolina Educational Television until 92. Then from 92, I went to work for another state agency. And during my career at Educational Television, going back in '85, I transferred from the engineering department into the computer services department, and I wound up taking over that and running the computer. There was a whole new thing they had just brought in their first multi-user computer and all that kind of stuff. So
Computer, how big?
yeah, it was a PDP 11 was the first one,
Was it a
and
wall-to-wall or
it was. Well, we supported, I think, about 60 users on that one machine. And then we finally got a VAX machine. We went over to 150 users or so on the same machine. And then eventually we started going with PCs and the whole world changed again. So, but during that time, the South Carolina Educational Television was producing the William F. Buckley firing line show for PBS.
Oh.
And South Carolina Education Television was one of the 3 big uplink sites for PBS back in those days. So we were, like I said, we were also producing the firing line show.
Oh, I heard of that show.
Yeah, with William F. Buckley. Anyhow, he also had a show called The Debate Show, and these were 2-hour debates that he would produce.
Right.
And the problem he ran into was they had all these big name talent on there, people like Henry Kissinger and Dick Armey and all those guys. They started arguing among themselves. Well, he got more time than I did, you know.
Oh,
So
kids,
Henry
calm
went,
down.
yeah. So Bill Buckley went to Henry Cawthon, our president, said, "This is what my problem is. Do you have a solution?" She said, maybe I do. And he called me up to the office and said, this is what the problem is. And I said, yeah, here's what we'll do. We'll build a countdown clock on a computer and then run the video out to monitors on the floor where everybody can see how much time everybody got.
So with the debates with the presidential, you got 2 minutes or something like that. Is that where it came from?
Yeah, yeah. And of course, with those debates were all part of um, uh, they were all on the video there. Matter of fact, one of the presidential debates, Republican presidential debates, was actually on that show way back in the day. So,
Dang.
yeah,
Funny how these two linked together.
I think it was Ronald Reagan's when he was
He's a
running.
good old soul.
Yeah.
Miss him.
But anyhow, so I started doing those debates probably sometime around 85, 86.
Mm-hmm.
And I would uh, Bill Buckley asked me to always travel with the show when they were doing debates. So I wasn't on the road all the time, but
Yeah.
6 times a year I would go out to a different university and we'd time out these debates for Buckley's show. So I got to do
In
a lot
one
of traveling
state or different states?
all over. I mean, we
Yeah.
did some up your way. We did a couple in Michigan. We did some over there in Iowa. Some out on the West Coast, and then of
Right.
course a lot along the Ivy League because Bill had good connections in the Ivy League. So when I decided to make my leave and leave television and go into state government running computers for state government,
Uh-huh.
Buckley asked me if I would continue to do the show. So I became a contractor
Yeah.
for Buckley's show, and I did that until he retired in 1999 in with our last show in New York City. And it's kind of interesting. We have done several shows in New York City, and I was never really impressed with the town until I did one at Christmas time. And then, oh my Lord, the difference in New York City between July
Judge.
and Christmas, with the
Yeah.
with uh, the lights and all that kind of stuff, especially the Christmas tree there at Rockefeller Plaza.
Okay, and the Rockheads.
Yeah, well, yeah, we
Oh yeah.
oh
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Look at that look. Look at that look.
Yeah. So that was the last television I did between that in late 1999 and then getting back into radio in 2007.
So what are you doing now, dear?
Well, I'm supposed to be retired, but I'm definitely not. I am doing the old school top 40 oldies show on WUSC-FM on Monday mornings between 10 and noon. And I'm also doing the daily newscast in the afternoon for another alumni of WUSC-FM.
Mhm.
It's on WXRY-FM. I read the news for them every afternoon. As a matter of fact, I just finished recording the newscast for today a few minutes ago.
Right.
And then
Tuesday.
Tuesday, well, the one thing I haven't really mentioned too much is the online radio, and that's where my connection with Mark Dawson comes from, is the online radio. I actually got a connection with Mark through another DJ on my online station,
Mm-hmm.
and then Mark wound up going on my online station. He's on Tuesday nights from 8 until 10,
8
doing
to
a
10, right.
yeah, and
One
so
generation, our generation.
our generation radio, yeah. So there's my shameless plug for your show there.
I'm shaming it,
Yeah,
therefore I
yeah.
am.
So and Mark came on pretty early in our existence. So he's been on with us for over 10 years now. So at that point, I was, of course, doing online. I do an online show on Saturdays from 10 until 1.
Mhm.
Because all these are Eastern time, by the way. So the same time for your audience. And then on
Easter, not Easter.
yeah, that's right. Easter is an egg. Eastern is a time.
You think?
So and I do a show on WSC on Monday mornings from 10 until noon, and then a show on Our Generation Radio Monday night from
Right.
7 until 9. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I do the newscasts on WXRY. On Saturday, I do the show on from 10 until 1 o'clock on Our Generation Radio. Don't do any radio on Sunday because I'm prepping for my Monday morning show on WSC. The Monday night show is syndicated on 2 other radio stations.
Mm.
Both of them happen to be in the UK. And then Oh, wait a minute. There's the third station is also here in the United States. So there's 3 radio stations here in the world that carry my Monday night show.
Are they doing piggyback or
What I do is when I do my show live, I also record it and then I send them
YouTube
actually it's an audio file
audio file? Okay.
through a transfer program, and they use that to do the shows on their stations. I
Okay.
also, for the past 10 years, as a matter of fact, I'm coming up on my 10th anniversary of doing a show on a very interesting radio station. It's called RTI Pop Rad. And RTI stands for Radio Tatras International, and Tatras stands for the Tatry Mountains, which are part of Slovakia.
Slovakia.
Yeah. Now, this station is broadcasting in English. It's operated by the BBC
Oh,
for
BBC.
English-speaking expats in all across Europe. But in the last couple of years, something kind of interesting has happened with that station. Pop Rad is 250 miles from the Ukrainian border.
Oh,
So Pop Rad is filled with refugees right now from the Ukraine, and they all listen to our shows because primarily not because we're great DJs, but because they're trying to learn English.
and to come over. I don't blame them.
Yeah. So it's kind of that's what's going on with RTI. It's a very interesting. Funny thing, there's a double connection with a bunch of guys at RTI Pop Rad,
What?
and that is you may have heard of the river, the channel pirates of the '60s. Now
Yeah.
the Radio Caroline was one of them, and there was a couple other ones like let's see, in the '80s there was Laser 588 and stuff like this. These were all radio stations operating in the English Channel off the coast of England,
Ah,
and they were operating without license. So Radio Caroline was the very first one. And in 1964, when I was at the University of South Carolina, I was also a naval ROTC student. So I was also, as part of my Navy obligations that year, I had to go to sea for 6 weeks and get training at sea. Well, our cruise left Annapolis, Maryland in probably March. I think it was sometime in March of 1964. And when we were coming into the English Channel, there was a bunch of us sitting on the fantail listening to these radio stations. And of course, we knew the BBC did not broadcast rock and roll. But being young guys, we wanted to hear rock and roll. So we were listening to the French stations and the Luxembourg stations and the Dutch stations.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we heard this station announcing in English.
breaking in.
And we're kind of like, whoa, what is this? And it had a funny signal. The signal would fade in and out on about a 10 to 15 second cycle.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and finally we heard them announce themselves as Radio Caroline. So this was the first month of operations of Radio Caroline. I actually heard that. So, and the fade, by the way, was the mast swinging back and forth as the boat was rocking in the water.
What would you like to say to me audience? I'd like to interview you again, eh?
Yeah, we can do this sometime.
Let
I
me
caught the Canadian A there, by the way.
see the flags.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. I just want to say that I actually, like I said, used to listen to WOWO from Fort Wayne in the 70s, 60s, and 70s quite a bit because they ported their 50,000 watt signal down here. Of course, we also listened to Cousin Brucey and all at WABC
I bet
in
you
New York.
do.
Yeah. So, but
Oh, we gotta go.
yeah.
This is Patty Hunter of Patty's Page, and this lucky guy on my show, Rick Wrigley. And thank you. You are A-OK in my book, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Good to see you again
Catch you later,
sometime.
and keep out of trouble. If not, have fun.
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our fears. God will keep us close from up above. So until we meet again, Godspeed, my love. God is with us always. That
for the rest of all our lives.